So here we have our contrasting second theme, which you'll hear on the link. All right, we've got this nice flowing, and we are fully in D major. Notice we're in the dominant key. All right, all the way through here. A little more. Here, and we get the end of the second theme. Generally, there is a repeat sign at the end of every exposition, okay? That's a big, big one. So you'll get a repeat. A nice repeat sign, all right? Let's see, and this usually signals the end of the exposition. Notice also that we'll have a perfect authentic cadence at the end, all right? So, occasionally what you will see, these are additional, but not always the case, some sonata form movements, particularly those of extended length. You'll see this more often in like romantic era music, when music gets really big and long and complex. But they'll have a third theme. This theme is often called a closing theme. It is usually in the same key as the second theme, so it's in the same key as the second theme, but has a character that distinguishes it as a separate unit. So it's going to be totally different in the way it's performed, right? The way it sounds. It'll either be really lyrical, it'll be really rhythmic, but it'll be a contrast to that second theme, but it will still have the same key. Now, a codetta, which is just a tiny coda, often completes the exposition. This is true. You usually see a little bit of a coda at the end. So it has the general characteristics of an extended cadence. In this case, the cadential extension serves to complete the exposition. So right here, we get this little exposition, right? So this is our little extension right here. It could end right here on the 1, but we choose to give it a nice perfect authentic cadence and extend the cadence. And that would be called a codetta. All right, so in the development, if we move along, our development is going to start on measure 29 in C to 53. So usually the development's a little bit, it depends on what era you're analyzing the piece in. In the late Romantic era, the development becomes huge. In the Classical era, the development is generally pretty short relative to the exposition. So just keep that in mind. The development, in this case, we're in the early Romantic, or like mid-Classical era, so our development's going to be pretty short. Now, if you're doing like Beethoven or Liszt or Wagner or something like that, the development gets huge because it's their chance to sort of go crazy. Anyway, so the development consists of measures 29 to 53 in this Haydn sonata. The development sections include motivic manipulation of the themes from the exposition. Just like we said, he develops these themes, he changes them up. Several keys not found in the exposition appear. So you're going to get new keys. And in this Haydn sonata, the development contains the first and second themes of the composition. This is very common. And we get the keys of C and D major and E minor. They're all visited briefly. All right? No, there's no standard organization for development, so you can kind of do whatever you want. It doesn't have to be like B1 and then B2 and then B1. They can do anything they want. But most divide into identifiable subsections, distinguished by thematic material. So you'll be able to see the themes and sort of organize a little bit. So here, we get our first theme back, right? But it's a little bit different. It's in the key of D, right? And you can notice the chords change a little bit. We have 5, 7, and 4, 5. We modulate here in C, right? 5, 5, 7. So it gets a little more complex, and you'll hear it when you listen to the recording. And then he comes back and he gives us the second theme, develops it. You notice that there doesn't have to be a transition between the two, right? It just pops right into it. then he adds in the second theme, he develops that. And now here's some new material, all right, where he's just expanding on it. So he scales up, all right? Here's more stuff from the first theme stuff. So this is just all development. Okay, and you can see he gets a little crazy with the keys. He modulates the D back to D major. Lots of first inversions, second inversions, diminished seventh chord, diminished second chords. So it gets a little bit more exciting as far as the chords go, chord progressions, modulations, and stuff like that. All right. Now, at the end of the development, we get something called the retransition. All right. The retransition is a passage at the end of the development that anticipates the recapitulation by combining fragments of the first theme and modulating to tonic key. So basically, what he's going to do is take little fragments. So he's got this ba-da-da-da-dum, 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 right? And he puts it in the bass line, but it's still fragments of that first theme. And he's going to slowly work his way back to G major so that he can come back with the recap. All right? So the idea of the development is to stray away from the tonic, and then at the very end you come back to the tonic so that the recap happens back in tonic. Okay? So now we've done our retransition back to the recapitulation or the recap. So the recap is the balance of the sonata form. Right? In some ways the recap is quite similar to the exposition, but the original key of the composition is used for all themes. So it doesn't go into, this is the important thing, how to tell the difference between the exposition and the recapitulation. So the exposition, if we go back a little bit, the general form for an exposition is first theme is going to be the tonic, and the second theme is going to move to the dominant, all right? So it moves to the dominant, and then the development usually starts in the dominant, and then it goes wherever it wants, right? And eventually, when we hit that retransition, wherever it happens to be, it moves to 1. All right? Now the recap stays in 1. It starts in 1 through the retransition, and then we end the thing in 1. All right? So both themes come back, theme 1 and theme 2, just like the exposition, but theme 2 stays in the tonic. It does not move to the dominant. And that's the really important defining feature between the recap and the exposition. All right? So, the original key of the composition is used for all themes, and this is important. Original key, all themes. Transitions are often shorter than the exposition because there's no need to modulate, right? So there is a little bit of a transition, sometimes no transition. But you don't need to modulate, so they don't have to do quite as much work to get there. In the Haydn sonata, the recap occurs between 58 to the end. All right? So this is our recap. You can see it comes right back from the key of G, 1, 4, 5, 7, 1, exactly as it was in the exposition. And then, at the very end, theme 2 comes back. It'll still be in G, but it'll be just like it appeared in the exposition, but it will be in the key of G instead of the key of D. And then finally, we wrap it up with the coda, which is not always there, but usually you'll find it. It's pretty common. About, I would say 90% of sonatas have a coda. If present, is similar to, but larger than the codetta. So this is the one, this is also the other thing. So in the exposition, you get a little codetta. In the recap, you get a big coda. All right? It will always be larger than the little codetta at the end of the exposition. And we can see this here. All right? So here's our little transition. Notice it's not nearly as big as it was before. Here's our second theme. All right? Notice it's still in the key of G. It doesn't move at all. All right? And then, at the very end, we get a little bit of a collection of all the old material, right? And here is our little coda. Okay? So it just kind of takes everything, wraps it all up, and ties a bow on it, and then we get a nice, perfect authentic cadence at the end. All right? So that's really it. So what you're going to do this week for your homework is there's only one assignment. You don't have to go into deep analysis or anything. This is going to be kind of a two-part thing. But what I want you to do is identify, so you're going to do assignment 8.1, and I want you to just map out the basics this week, okay? So you're going to find the exposition, okay, the development, the recap. You need to find the coda. You need to identify a codetta if it exists. If it doesn't, that's okay. And then I want you to find theme 1, theme 2, and all of and transition material. So all the stuff that we talked about, the transition, and then also within here, also the retransition. So all the stuff that we just talked about, I want you to just identify it. And also, when you get to the development, identify what's theme 1 and what's theme 2. You don't have to do a hardcore analysis. You don't have to identify cadences yet. Don't worry about any of that stuff. I just want you to look at this Beethoven sonata. You can see, I mean, the first part is so easy. Here's the repeat. This whole first chunk, that's all exposition. All right? Here's your development. And I'm going to let you guys, so it's a longer one. This is Beethoven. So you've got to identify where the recap comes back. All right? See if you can do that. See if you can find the coda. And look for where all of these themes are. Look for theme 1. Look for theme 2. You can guarantee this is going to be theme 1. Generally, music is about 8 measures long when you're introducing themes. So just keep that in mind, and I think you should be okay. And we'll go more in depth and pull it apart even more next week. All right, so if you have any questions, let me know, and I will see you guys next week.
All right, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.